Hey there guys, this is the chapter on absolute monarchs in Europe. If you look down here, there's your Ed Puzzle era of absolutism. Check that out. I'm going to scan through this and try to get it done in 15 minutes. A lot of slides here, so we're going to move on. What is absolutism? It's a period of time when Europe's monarchs got stronger and stronger, and they ruled absolutely with absolute power. They believed in this theory, the divine right of God. Basically, God knew everything, Calvin's predestination, so since he knew that I was going to be such a good or bad ruler, he chose me anyway, so I can do what I want. The only person to question the king is God. So, strengths of absolutist monarchies: efficiency. Decisions are made by one person. Nationalism's promoted. Stability, because you got one ruler until they die. And wealth. No resistance means a large and powerful empire. It's very undemocratic. These are some weaknesses. It's very undemocratic. No collaboration of ideas. Individual rights were often violated. Stability. If the ruler was poor, it could affect the country for decades. So, how to achieve more power? Monarchs gain power generally in one of two ways. They raise taxes or they wage war. So, absolute monarchy in Spain, Philip II, there's his reign. As you see, he expanded Catholicism, took control of Portugal when its king died without an heir, and created an army of 50,000 soldiers. So Spain's golden age, as you see, El Greco expressed the deep Catholic faith in Spain. Diego Velázquez, as you see, reflected pride in Spanish monarchy, and Miguel, he wrote Don Quixote. So there's El Greco. There we go. Inflation and taxes. Spain suffered from a severe economic decline. Wars cost Spain too much money, and they had to declare bankruptcy over time. So in France, Henry of Navarre converted to Catholicism, as you see, survived the St. Bartholomew's Day massacre of the Huguenots, which remembered us Protestants. Edict of Nantes in 1598 basically allows Catholics and Protestants to live in peace. Louis the 13th and Cardinal Richelieu, as you see, after Henry dies, his son Louis the 13th takes over, but it's actually Cardinal Richelieu who runs things. And if you look here, he took two major steps toward power. He moved against the Huguenots and all Protestants, and he weakened the nobles' power and relied on the middle class instead. Remember, nobility could challenge the king. King Louis XIV comes to power. He's known as the Boy King. He doesn't take over until 1661, and Louis weakens the nobles' authority as well. He excludes them from his council. So, as you see here, he gave tax benefits to companies. He was a believer in mercantilism and self-sufficiency. He spends most of his money on his personal life, or a lot of money on his personal life. He is the king. You need to underline, he built the Palace of Versailles. I think it's on 5 acres of land, the house is, the palace is. 36 acres overall, I believe. Louis controls the nobility. He forced the nobles to be in the palace with him, wanted to keep an eye on them. And he was a patronage of the arts. He really did like artwork in all forms. So there's a picture of the Sun King. He's also known as the Sun King. Don't let the high heels, makeup, and tights fool you. He spent most of his time at war killing. That's how he's going to raise this money. Here's the Palace of Versailles. Here's some of it, not all of it. If you check it out, it is grand. There's King Louis's bedroom. If you look quickly, there's his bed, the rest of his room. And he often held state meetings. All of his council would be in here, and he would dictate orders from the bedroom. So, as I said, he really spends most of his time fighting 4 major wars. Here's a little bit about that. Here's some more about this. If you look, the War of Spanish Succession fought for about 13, 14 years. He basically wants to put his grandson on the throne in Spain. And if you look, the Treaty of Utrecht says the thrones of Spain and France remain separate. England gained a colony and greater access to the Atlantic slave trade out of this whole thing. However, Louis' grandson does end up running Spain, becoming king of Spain. It's just they can't be the same person. So, and this does exude this does show you how powerful France was at this period of time. So in 1715 he dies. His positive legacy: France is much more powerful. It's at the top of art and literature, great military in Europe. Negative legacy: constant warfare and construction, deeply in debt, unfair tax system. So, Central Monarchs class, you get to 30 Years' War. You're going to have some reading on this, I believe. But basically, Protestants, the Hapsburgs, and Catholics, the Holy Roman Empire, go to war with each other for 30 years. If you look here, there's some of that. We're going to move on. You need to know the Treaty of Westphalia. It ends the 30 Years' War. The Habsburgs of Spain and Austria were weakened. France was strengthened out of this thing. Religious wars in Europe ended. German princes were independent from the Holy Roman Empire. Peace negotiations to end the war started. And this is the beginning of modern states. And it ended the idea of a Catholic empire. So here's some things here you need to know about states from the Central Europe. Ottoman Empire, Holy Roman Empire is weakening. On the rise is Austria and Prussia. So we do need to know a little bit about Eastern Europe, as you see here. Austria grows stronger. Gains Hungary and Bohemia, wiped out Protestantism. Maria Theresa inherits the throne. That's her. She fought constantly against Prussia, limited the labor that nobles could force peasants to do. We need to know a little bit about Frederick the Great here. Okay, so check him out. War of Austrian Succession here. I don't mean to skip over this, but you guys, I've got a lot to do here, and I'm just trying to get through this quickly. Russia contrasts with Europe, as you see, economically, serfdom, socially. Mongols swept through Russia, isolated them from the Renaissance. Geographically, the ports froze in winter, and they have religious differences. Remember, Europe, Western Europe's Catholic or Protestant. Russia, they're Orthodox, Eastern Orthodox Christians. So, Ivan the Terrible, he became Tsar in 1533. He took control over the nobles so that he would increase his power. He ruled by terror. Okay, so if you look at that, and he killed a lot of nobles. So the rise of the Romanovs, as you see with Ivan the Fourth's death in 1584, there was a power vacuum. So we have nobles struggling for power. In 1613, Mikhail Romanov was chosen as the next Tsar. Remember, Tsar is the Russian term for Caesar. Peter the Great, as you see, he visits the West, he visits the U.S., visits the West, the Western Europe, and he wants to westernize Russia. So here are his reforms. Here's his rules and reforms. So if you check them out, there you go. You'll have a little bit more time to write this down or get it in your own time. I've got to kind of move on, or you can pause this thing. So St. Petersburg, he builds this. It's known as Leningrad today. It's known as St. Petersburg. So the English Reformation, we got to get through this quickly here. And guys, this is a whole story in itself. As you see, religious leaders in England had called for reform since the 1300s. The break with the Catholic Church, though, would not come for this? It would be because of Henry VIII and he wants to get a divorce. So early on, he violently defends the Roman Catholic Church. As a matter of fact, he would impale Protestants, meaning you can look that up as a very violent death, where they stick a pole up through your hind and they stick you on top of the pole and the pole goes through your whole body, like a tree pole. But as you see, the Pope gave him the title of Defender of the Faith because of his loyalty, but he had some personal issues. In 1527, he asked the Pope to basically annul his marriage to Catherine of Aragon, a very popular Queen of England. They loved her. And the Pope refused. Tells you there why. Henry was furious, so he decided to take over the church, and with the help of English laws, I think that's what it is, were passed that made Henry the sole head of the church. So he's going to end up marrying 6 times. Keep in mind, his first wife, he banishes her to a castle in a swamp, and she won't see her daughter marry again from the time Mary's 13 to the rest of her life. He actually has his second wife, Anne Boleyn, executed for treason. None of these ladies could give him a boy or male heir to the throne except for Jane Seymour. She gave Henry Edward, and she died in childbirth. So, as you see here, after his death, 1547, Edward becomes king. He dies soon after. Then Mary becomes king, and she wants to convert England back to Catholicism. It will be Anne Boleyn's child that takes over after Mary dies in 1558, and that will be Elizabeth I. Here's some of the things she does. I've got to move on. It's known as the Elizabethan Age. It's known as, this is the time of Shakespeare and the Northern Renaissance. So you can read through this. The Spanish Armada, she's going to defeat this in 1588, making England the world's strongest naval power up until the end of World War I, really around 1930 when Japan took over. So King James I, he believes in the divine right to kings, and he will be a very unpopular leader in England. King Charles I, his brother, takes over in 1525 when James dies, and as you see, dissolved Parliament. He's going to actually live through the English Civil War, as you see here. Parliament takes over, and if you look, let's see, where is it at here? Yeah, you can read through that. Yes, down here at the bottom, King Charles is executed. He's beheaded, actually. Oliver Cromwell's rule basically established a commonwealth in England, and he puts down a rebellion in Ireland. This is where the Puritans take over morality, and this will greatly influence the U.S. because a lot of Puritans move over here, and control our society. So, morally, of course. Charles II comes to power. They restored the monarchy after Oliver Cromwell dies. James II, who is a Catholic, he basically has a child, and Parliament will fire him and make his daughter marry the Queen, but they have to sign this English Bill of Rights before they ascend the throne. So, and here we go. The Bill of Rights says basically it limits royal power. It establishes Parliament as the primary, or as the equal to the king, and it establishes a cabinet system. English Bill of Rights. Here you go. Suspends ruler cannot suspend Parliament laws, levy taxes without permission of Parliament, interfere with freedom of speech, penalize a citizen who criticizes the king. We are finished.